No one rings a bell before a dollar crisis begins. There is no headline that says, "The system is about to break." Instead, the warning signs appear quietly, hidden in places most people never look. And every time in history, those same signals showed up months or years before the dollar cracked. What's disturbing is this: those signals are appearing again right now, and almost no one is talking about them. The common belief is that dollar crises happen suddenly because of wars, bad leaders, or market panic. But that belief is wrong. Dollar crises are not accidents. They follow a pattern, and that pattern starts long before the crash, inside decisions that look harmless at the time. To understand this, we need to go back to where the dollar's power truly began. After World War II, America controlled most of the world's gold. Its factories were untouched. Its economy was booming, so the world made a deal. Other countries would tie their currencies to the dollar, and the dollar would be backed by gold. This system was called Bretton Woods. On the surface, it brought stability, but underneath, it planted the first hidden crack. Because once the dollar became the world's reserve currency, America gained a privilege no empire before it ever had: could print money and export inflation to the rest of the world. At first, this power was used carefully. But history shows one rule: when a system rewards debt, debt always grows. The first secret signal of every dollar crisis is this: spending expands faster than real growth. In the 1960s, the U.S. funded the Vietnam War and massive social programs at the same time. Gold reserves began falling. Foreign countries quietly noticed. Led by Charles de Gaulle, started asking a dangerous question: is the dollar really worth what it claims? What happened next shocked Washington. Countries began converting dollars into gold. The U.S. gold vaults started draining. This was not public news. There were no panic headlines. But inside government meetings, alarms were going off. The system was breaking silently. In 1971, President Nixon made a decision that changed everything: closed the gold window. The dollar was no longer backed by gold. Officially, this was called temporary. In reality, it was permanent. This moment was the second secret signal: when trust replaces backing. Once money is backed only by confidence, the entire system depends on belief, and belief is fragile. At first, nothing collapsed. In fact, markets rose. This is another trap history sets. When the system breaks, it often feels good at first. Easy money flows, credit expands, asset prices climb. People feel richer, but underneath, imbalance grows. The 1970s exposed the next signal: inflation combined with instability. Prices exploded. Oil shocks hit. The dollar weakened. Confidence faded. The U.S. survived only by creating a new deal: the petrodollar. Oil would be priced in dollars. In return, America would protect oil nations. This restored demand for the dollar, but it came at a cost. From this moment on, the dollar was no longer backed by gold or production. It was backed by geopolitics and force. Fast forward to the 1980s and 1990s, the Cold War ends. And America stands alone. The dollar becomes stronger than ever. But this strength hides another signal. Financialization replaces productivity. Manufacturing moves overseas. Debt replaces wages. Wall Street grows faster than Main Street. Most people didn't notice. Stocks went up. Homes got bigger. Credit got easier. This is always how it happens. Then came 2008. The global financial crisis was not just a housing crash. It was a dollar stress event. The system froze. Banks failed. And once again, the response followed the same playbook: print money to save the system. Quantitative easing became normal. Trillions were created digitally. The public was told this was temporary. It never was. This leads to the most dangerous signal of all: emergency policies becoming permanent. Interest rates stayed near zero for years. Debt exploded. Governments learned they could delay pain instead of solving it. Markets became addicted to cheap money. And here's the pattern: history never breaks. Every dollar crisis begins with rising debt masked as growth trust replacing real backing. Emergency fixes becoming permanent. Financial markets disconnecting from reality each time. Leaders say, this time is different. This time it isn't. By the early 2020s, something changed. Inflation returned, not briefly, but structurally. Rates had to rise. Debt costs exploded. Banks quietly failed again. Foreign buyers began reducing dollar exposure. Trade started shifting away from dollar settlement. These are not headlines. These are whispers. The same whispers heard before every major dollar reset. And now comes the question no one wants to ask. If these signals appeared before 1971, before the 1970s crisis, and before 2008, what happens when they all appear at the same time? Because that's where we are now. In the next section, we'll expose the breaking point, the exact moment in history when hidden stress turns into open crisis. Why leaders always miss it, and why the year ahead is triggering alarms that match every past dollar collapse. Every dollar crisis reaches a moment where quiet signals turn into visible damage. History shows this moment is never caused by one big event. It's caused by pressure building for years until one small crack makes everything snap at once. Leaders always say the same words afterward. No one could have seen this coming, but that's not true. The signs were there, as they always are. The breaking point usually begins with confidence slipping in places the public doesn't watch. In past dollar crises, the first visible damage appeared in bonds, not stocks. When investors demand higher interest to hold government debt, it's a warning that trust is weakening. This happened in the late 1960s, again in the late 1970s, and again before 2008, and it's happening now. Rising yields aren't a sign of strength, they're a stress signal. Then comes the second fracture. Liquidity breaks. In 2008, banks stopped trusting each other. In the 1970s, currency markets froze. When money stops flowing smoothly, fear spreads faster than facts. Central banks respond the only way they know how, by stepping in harder. They inject money. They offer guarantees. They lower standards. These actions calm markets temporarily, but they also confirm the worst fear. The system can't survive on its own. What happened next in every crisis shocked the public. The fixes worked at first. After 1971, the dollar didn't collapse immediately. After 2008, markets didn't stay down. In fact, asset prices surged. Stocks hit records. Housing recovered. Wealth concentrated at the top. This creates the illusion that the crisis is over. But history shows this phase is the most dangerous, because it's not recovery, it's delay. Debt grows faster, productivity falls further behind, governments borrow just to pay interest. Central banks lose room to maneuver. Each rescue makes the next crisis larger. This is what historians call the doom loop, when saving the system makes it weaker. Eventually, reality forces its way back in. In past dollar crises, the fallout came in waves. First inflation, or currency pressure, then social strain, then political instability. Trust breaks not just in money, but in institutions. People stop believing official numbers. They stop believing promises. They look for alternatives. This is where history begins to rhyme loudly. Today, countries are signing trade deals that avoid the dollar. Central banks are buying gold at the fastest pace in decades. Digital currencies and payment rails are being built quietly. None of this is accidental. These moves mirror the exact behavior seen before previous reserve shifts. And here's the part that makes 2026 so alarming. The U.S. now carries debt levels higher than any previous crisis period. Interest costs are exploding. Demographics are turning negative. Productivity growth is weak. And global rivals are openly preparing for a less dollar-centered world. In the past, these pressures appeared one at a time. Now, they're stacked together. History shows that when multiple stress signals align, the breaking point arrives faster than expected. It's not in a single day, not with one announcement, but through a loss of control. Policy tools stop working the way they used to. Rate hikes cause instability, rate cuts fuel inflation. Printing money weakens trust. Not printing causes collapse. Every option hurts. This is the true end stage of a dollar cycle. So what usually happens next? In every past case, leaders attempt failed fixes, price controls, temporary caps, new programs, renamed policies that promise stability without sacrifice. These measures calm headlines, but deepen the problem. The public is told the system is safe, right? Until it isn't. Then comes the reset. Resets are rarely announced. They arrive through inflation, devaluation, financial repression, or silent changes to how money works. Savings lose purchasing power, rules change mid-game. What people thought was safe no longer is. History doesn't repeat exactly, but the pattern is unmistakable. And that brings us to the present moment. If the same secret signals appeared before every dollar crisis, if the same breaking points always followed, and if the same failed fixes are being used again, then the real question isn't if history will rhyme. It's how prepared people will be when it does. First, dollar crises are slow until they're sudden. Waiting for headlines is always too late. Second, trust is the real currency. Once it cracks, no policy can fully repair it. Third, history doesn't warn loudly. It whispers, and only once. The world isn't ending, but a system may be changing. And when money systems change, everything else follows. If you want to understand how past financial cycles ended and what signals to watch next, subscribe to Economy Rewind. Because the biggest economic shifts don't begin with crashes, they begin with patterns most people ignore.